Looking forward to Don Fischer joining us here in just 2 seconds. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm all right.
Of course, Indiana coming off of a tough loss at home to Northwestern and Boo Booey and crew. The boy, I could sure create the. I say this a lot when you're not on the show, Don, but the world's greatest drinking game would be Boo Booey. You taking a shot every time you hear the name Boo Booey, and boy, you wouldn't make it to halftime. But it was not Boo Booey that led the way for the Wildcats this time, but they're able to get it done inside the Simon Scott Assembly Hall on Sunday.
Yeah, they did. I thought in this ball game, Jim, there were three real problems for Indiana. Obviously, the free throw shooting was one of the major ones, knocking in 12 of 21, which is 57% from the free throw line, which is poor, without question. Giving up 28 free throws to Northwestern, and they make 22. Now, granted, a lot of those were in the last few minutes of the ball game when Indiana was trying to stretch the game out to give themselves a chance. So part of that's there, but they're making them. They're knocking them down. And obviously, their 79% from the free throw line was so much better than Indiana's 57%. The rebounding differential, not dramatic. One more rebound for Northwestern than Indiana, but 14 of those rebounds for Northwestern were offensive boards, which gave second chance points to Northwestern to a dramatic degree. And then the other area was the turnovers. Indiana had just 11, which is in the ballpark, which Mike Woodson says, that's in the area of where we want to be with turnovers. However, Northwestern turned the ball over 3 times, and Indiana scored no points off those 3 turnovers, and Northwestern scored 11 off of Indiana's 11 turnovers. So
you hit the exact same points that I hit on the post-game show with Todd Larry the other day. It's the little things. I said, man, because Indiana outshoots Northwestern 51% to 35 for the game, and any other time, and they hit 5 of their last 7 shots. Northwestern finishes hitting 1 of their last 11, but as you just pointed out, those the disparity in free throws, the disparity in offensive rebounds, and those second chance points, and the points off of turnovers. I think that ended up being a plus 27 for Northwestern right there in a 4-point game. So it doesn't take a mathematician to figure that out.
No, it does not. And those are the kinds of things right now that this team is dealing with, that if this doesn't change, and we're not seeing that this is probably going to change at this juncture, they've got to be better at the free throw line. They've been poor at the line all year long as a team. I think 64% going into the ball game at the free throw line. Wait a second. Yeah, 64% in Big Ten play at the free throw stripe this year in Big Ten play. That's got to change, and it's a confidence thing. I think it's confidence and the mental side of basketball with this team shooting free throws at this point. Mackenzie Mbako, who is Indiana's best free throw shooter at 85%, misses his first free throw in the first half, has only 2 points, I think, is that right, at halftime, or just had 1. He had 1 point at halftime and then scored 19 in the second half. So his first miss, though, for your best free throw shooter. And from that point forward, Indiana, barely makes 50%. So
now, did you notice the person for Northwestern clapping?
No.
I figured you did because of the headphones, but there was a la Greg, what's his name's wife, the former coach at Wichita State. His wife used to whistle or something during the opposing team's free throws. There was one person that was clapping at an odd progression, and I'm like, I think that might be working, because it was so quiet in Simon Scott Assembly Hall, but all you could hear was that clapping during the IU free throws, and I'm like, doing a good job.
Well, it may have maybe it was a factor, and here's my thing on that. It's a concentration thing, number one, and the mental thing, number 2. So if they're listening or hearing that and it's bothering them, we're in trouble. I mean, that's all you can say. I mean, players go to the free throw line. they know if it's a home game, it's going to be quiet, and if it's a road game, it's going to be they're screaming their butts off. So um, again, this is a basketball team. If they're that fragile, then this season's lost. I mean, it's that
Right.
simple. It's a ball club right now. They had 7 days to get ready for this game. So there wasn't any, it couldn't have been that they were tired or anything from that, unless they're practicing for 7 hours a day. So that's not the issue. Having the right amount of energy and the intensity level to play with. And I didn't think I thought Indiana played hard in this ball game. I don't think that was the issue. Malik Renew had a down ball game. He's struggling a little bit right now. I think more than anybody else in this basketball team, it's affected his mentality a little bit, how the season has gone. And I think he's frustrated. And obviously gets himself into foul trouble again, which, that's been an ongoing issue for him throughout the season. But most games he's able to handle that. Unfortunately, in this ball game, he was not, and he gets booted with fouls out of the ball game, and now he has 9 points and 5 rebounds. It is not much of a factor. So if it's not one thing, it's something else with this ball club, and it's ongoing at this point, and it's got to stop. If they're not going to get this stopped, this is going to be an awful end to a basketball season that many people thought was going to be a very promising year for Indiana.
Yeah, the starting guards as well, Don, total of 9 personal fouls between them, with Gabe Cupps fouling out and Trey Galloway having 4 to go along with that. Just shows that trying to keep up with Northwestern's guards, which we knew that coming in, that was their forte, their guard play. It was that, and the interior play that they got was a little surprising for me, to be honest with you. I thought that although Kalel Ware did have a great day with 22 points on 10 of 14 shooting, 16 rebounds, it was Mackenzie Renew. He was continued to struggle, like you said. I thought that Indiana could just dominate in the paint, and they were able to do that on just one side, not the other.
Well, and here's what I think people miss when you talk about Northwestern. They have 3 bigs: the Preston kid, Hunger, and then Nicholson, who was their starter. Those 3 guys share the floor all game long. They wear you out with there's 2 of them are 6'10", 1 7 foot. Nicholson is a big 280-pound guy. He bangs in there with the best of them without question. And I think they wear you down a little bit in that context. I think because he uses all 3 of those guys, and they're all fresh when they come into the ball game. And Nicholson, he was spectacular yesterday. His best game perhaps of the season, 14 points and 16 rebounds. He was a dominant factor in the contest. And so, again, I actually felt like if Kalel Ware was going to have the game that he did, then Indiana would probably win this contest, because he had 22 points and 16 rebounds. Because I thought the bigs for Northwestern would be a factor in the ball game. And I also thought Boo Buie would be a bigger factor. And I thought Gabe Cupps' job defensively on him and Galloway as well, when they were both guarding the guy, he couldn't do much of anything yesterday. He was pretty much stopped. But it was the other guys who killed Indiana in this contest. The Langborg kid was 26 points. And that's the issue with this ball club. They can't, when one thing's going badly, and that there are other guys that have to step up, and we just don't see that.
Yeah, the one area that Indiana had great success was transition. 14-0 in fast break points, which tells me that, hey, you got to get this team on their heels, Northwestern. Keep them moving, because Indiana, obviously with great success there, but just not enough of it.
Well, Eric Sewer, my color analyst, has said all year long, when Indiana's playing its best basketball, they are pushing it. They are aggressive. They are pushing the ball down the floor, getting into the offense quickly, and that's when they can take advantage of the other team. And this ball club struggles to do that on a consistent basis. They get down there. Now they're in a half-court set. They move the ball around. It's not like they're just standing there dribbling, but they don't seem to get in. If they don't get into the offense quickly, they don't do nearly as well. And there's no question. I mean, they can't play Wisconsin basketball. They can't try to run the shot clock down for the last shot in that 30-second segment. That's just not Indiana's game. And when they don't get off and don't get down the floor quickly, and then when they don't push it and they aren't aggressive, they don't play as well.
Well, Northwestern was a team that needed that win, as did Indiana, but they needed that win, just like Indiana's upcoming opponent, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, as they come in to Bloomington this Wednesday. They're also needing to stay on that winning side because they're probably in the tournament, but maybe. They're a maybe. They're not securely in there. So they are desperately looking for that W.
There's no question Nebraska has yet to win a road game this year in Big Ten play. They have one road win this season. That was against Kansas State, and that came back in December. This is a Nebraska team that's much improved over a year ago. They proved that against Indiana in their first meeting when they clobbered Indiana in Lincoln. And not a good performance by the Hoosiers. That was the restart of Big Ten play back in January the 3rd. It's a ball club that can beat you in a number of ways, but they are a team that likes to shoot the three. And I'm telling you right now, the guy, in my opinion, that they've got to stop. I know everybody talks about Tominaga, but I think C.J. Wilcher's the guy that Indiana has to stop because he sees Indiana on the jersey and he goes nuts. Look at the first game box score. This guy, and every game that he's played against Indiana in the past, he has been a major factor. So, especially if Indiana got beat by them. And generally speaking, you go to Nebraska, you're going to have your hands full. But when they go on the road, they struggle. And Indiana has an opportunity this week against two teams that they are capable of beating if they play their best basketball, Nebraska and Penn State. You want to turn this season around, this is the week that you do it. And if you don't do it this week, it's not going to happen, I don't think, this year.
Yeah, if they're able to do that, that gets them back to 500 in Big Ten play, which would be huge for this Indiana team, and would put them a little higher above. They're currently 14-11 overall. Getting to that 17-win mark would be a big boost as they head toward the end of the season.
Well, you and I both know that every team in this league tries to avoid one thing: not playing in the first night of the Big Ten tournament. And if you play the first night of the Big Ten tournament, whatever your hopes are or whatever you think you can do, it ain't going to happen if you play on Wednesday to get to Sunday. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but it rarely ever does. And let's face it, this ball club right now, their only hope, unless they win all 6 of their last ball games, is the Big Ten tournament.